Laughing aloud now, magic in the air. Wands roll around us, cast away our care. Friends in the hallways, adventures we find. Spells and enchantments, trouble on our mind. That's so wizard, oh, 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 oh. Life is a spell we know. We're casting joy and glow, oh, oh. That's a wizard show. Mischief in the classroom, potions gone astray. Fly.
What's up, nerds? It's time once again for another exciting episode of That's So Wizards. That's So Wizards is filmed in front of a live studio audience consisting of Steve the Cat. Tonight's episode, Honney, where's my $1 billion? It's Wednesday, and on Wednesday we talk about Wizards of the Coast and their latest episode, their latest adventures, their latest shenanigans. It's 8:50 in the morning. It is the 21st day of August, 2024. It is 70 degrees and sunny here at Site B. So let's go. Let's start the show. What do you think of the song? I think the song's pretty awesome. Yeah, not bad, huh? I made that song myself. Yeah, well, AI made the song. So there's really only one story going on from Wizards this week. Professor Dungeon Master covered it already. Dungeons and Discourse covered it already. Stephen Glicker kind of covered it, but not really. But it all relates to the exact same thing. And it's the exact same story we've been telling since 2020. Now, if you remember, in case you haven't been paying attention to me for the past 5 years, in 2020, during the State of the Nation Hasbro announcement at Hasbro PulseCon, then CEO of Hasbro, during the State of the Nation, talked about the plans for Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons. They laid the plans out very clearly, what their plans and goals were for D&D going forward between 2020 and 2030, including very dominantly placing on the Hasbro calendar in June 2027, Dungeons and Dragons 6X. These are facts. Now, when I talked about this in 2020, of course, everybody and their dog came after me, from Scott Garraby to people who you wouldn't think come after me. Like some guys over, you would think we're not, fans of Wizards of the Coast, but nobody could believe that Wizards of the Coast, it would do what they said they were going to do. And since 2020, about twice to 3 times a year, Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro has come forward and once again said, these are our plans. Once again, I have then reiterated those plans, and once again, I usually received a ton of hate, as if people could not believe that Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro was going to do exactly what they said they were going to do. This happened for the past 4 years, up to and including recently, as Gen Con, where Jeremy Crawford openly admitted it's a brand new edition. And another representative, in an official interview / review of 2024 Dungeons & Dragons, it's a new edition. It is not a continuation of 5e. It is a brand new edition. And yet, as recently as a few weeks ago, people still cannot grasp this. So here it is again. You don't have to believe the words that are coming out of my mouth. Here is an interview with Chris Cox talking about the future of Dungeons & Dragons and how they somehow managed to lose $1 billion, and that they feel Dungeons & Dragons going forward is not marketable. They cannot market Dungeons & Dragons as it is. They cannot market Project Sigil. They cannot market D&D as it is unless they adopt video game strategies. What? Wizards of the Coast is going to do something they exactly said they were going to do? A couple days ago, our good friend over at Dungeons and Discourse made a video about this, about, I can't believe that Wizards of the Coast would do this. It's another scandal. And to which I would once again like to remind anybody who's listening that Wizards of the Coast plainly told you in 2020, in 2021, in 2022, in 2023, in 2024, as recently as 3 weeks ago, that these were their plans. As recently as my birthday, August 4th, at Gen Con, these were their plans. They're not lying. This should come as no surprise. They do not feel Dungeons and Dragons in its current incarnation is marketable anymore. Now, whose fault is that? Theirs. Who lost $1 billion at the beginning of the year? Q1? I didn't lose them $1 billion. You didn't lose them $1 billion. They lost $1 billion. How do you lose $1 billion in a quarter? I don't know. Start by pissing off your entire fan base, which is something that Wizards of the Coast seems to do extremely well. Now, in their defense, Wizards of the Coast is not making statements that anybody else in the industry is also making. There is nothing about this on the surface that should be surprising. Whether we like it or not, most of the universe, at least right now, is going into the digital format. They kind of have to. That's where the technology is. That's where we are on the evolutionary scale. We spend more time in front of our computers than we do talking to our family. It's just more profitable to put things on the computer so we can access on the phone. Will that change? Well, I mean, maybe. Nobody thought anything would kill Betamax until VHS came along. Nobody thought anything would kill VHS until DVD and Laserdisc came along. Nobody thought anything would kill DVD until Blu-ray came along. Nobody thought anything would kill Blu-ray until streaming came along. So we can say, oh yeah, it's inevitable. Everything's going to go streaming. Everything's going to go online. Everything's going to go on digital. And people are going to say, nothing is ever going to top this. Nobody can kill this. This is where the industry is going to be. And a year from now, something might come along where everybody goes, huh? What? This new thing is way cooler. I mean, or we might go backwards. I mean, people are buying VHS and vinyl again. So, but for right now, in this moment in the timeline, Wizards of the Coast Hasbro has made it very clear that 1, D&D is a lifestyle brand. It is no longer a tabletop role-playing game. 2, Dungeons and Dragons is not marketable. They cannot make a profit off of Wizards of the Coast product the way they are doing it now. The only way they can proceed is to take things digital. They've already seen the success of Monopoly Go. They've already seen the success of Magic Arena. They've already seen the success of Baldur's Gate 3. They believe that is where they need to take things. So D&D Beyond will be the future home of Dungeons and Dragons in all shapes and forms, from the most important things like actual physical books to character record sheets. They've just announced they're not going to make character record sheets anymore. I mean, that's no biggie. You can find character record sheets for free on the interweb and just download them in the thousands and print them out yourselves. But Wizards isn't going to make them anymore. They're going to just all be online. Why should I make paper and waste paper if you could just have access to it on the computer and just easily get it? Well, friends, again, I would say sidebar, that is, of course, a lie. We have repeatedly seen that it is not easy to get access to the stuff on the D&D Beyond. That is totally up to where you are, the strength of the device you're looking at, and the internet bandwidth, right? We've heard my story about the guy who took 20 minutes to try and figure out how to get D&D Beyond to add plus 1d6 to a magic weapon he found. How does that beat just writing it down on a character record sheet? It doesn't, but unfortunately, character record sheets are no longer sustainable. Paper is an endangered species. Printing and shipping is expensive. Putting a couple lines on code onto the computer program is cheap, and that's just the beginning. They want you to spend the, whatever it is, $15 a month to D&D Beyond, then spend the $160 to get access to the digital copies of the games on D&D Beyond, with the promise that at some point in time they might ship you a physical copy. But now they also want you to play D&D using their virtual tabletop Sigil, which you're going to have to pay another $15 a month to play. And they are going to have downloadable content and downloadable advancements. I mean, jokingly, in her interview, where Dungeons and Discourse talks about this, and talks about the pay to play. Drew Herma made a joke about, and with his DM, and with his final grasp, the Dark Wizard falls. Player, I'm going to search the Dark Wizard. Sigil, insufficient loot tokens. Please purchase more loot tokens to search the Dark Wizard. Player, I told you not to loot those goblins. Need to. So yes, the pay to play aspect is, you know, we're jokingly talking about it, but if anybody who's played a free pay to play DLC transaction based role playing game like Fortnite or Path of Exile, all the cosmetics, all the special things, all the special events, all the digital things, you're going to have to pay money. But there's an advantage, of course, to paying money for these things now, to rent your space online with D&D Beyond for the privilege of paying $160 to rent access to books, and then the privilege of paying $15 to $60 a month to have rent access to the VTT. And then once you're on the VTT, of course, we have all the downloadable transactions. Let's say you very specifically have a very specific look you want for your character to stand out from all the other dwarves, or all the other halflings, or all the other tieflings. Well, that's something you can DLC. Let's say there's a very specific adventure or a very specific item you need to get. DLC. Just look at Path of Exile. Again, guys, I'm not making this up, okay? I can be facetious about it and silly about it, much like Dungeons and Discourse, but I mean, here is black and white, plain as day, Hasbro telling you this is a new edition. D&D 5e is dead. I know we told you it wasn't. We lied. We're going completely digital. I know you think we're not, but we are. All our product is going to be available online, and we are going to slowly start bleeding off the physical product. And for those of you who spent the $160 for the digital content, in order to have the physical content shipped to you today, actually, well, just remember that we had 3,000 copies available at Gen Con on the 4th. So screw you, guy who paid $160. Here's some guy with, I don't know, $60 who's buying it. Oh, here's Stephen Glicker putting down a couple hundred to buy 20 of them. That's 20 physical copies you won't get at somebody else because Stephen Glicker bought them. God love him. And you can win those by heading on over to Stephen Glicker's site, Roll for Combat, and signing up and commenting on his videos. So if you're looking to possibly get one of the 20 free copies of the Player's Handbook that Stephen Glicker purchased, head on over to Roll for Combat and pick it up. Link down below. Thank you, Stephen Glicker. We love and appreciate you. So there you go. Segue. As you wanted to do. Speaking of Roll for Combat, speaking of people talking about D&D online and all that other stuff, let's catch up with what's going on with the weird D&D censorship thing. So as you know, before Player's Handbook went live at Gen Con, they made copies available to people in the media like Jeannie D to do early reviews to build up the excitement for the pre-release on the 22nd and to rub in salt in the wounds because of the 3,000 copies they were going to make available at Gen Con. I know this violates Street Date. We don't care. I know this violates our contract for Street Date with like Amazon and Target. We don't care. I know this violates the NDA where we said only you guys were going to get it first before anybody else. We don't care. So we know that the people who got it before had permission to review it and talk about it and show it online. The wiggle room comes with people who picked it up at Gen Con or picked it up and thought they could do the same thing. And this is where the weirdness comes in. And this is where a perfect example of why firing 1,010 members of your staff might have been a mistake. Now, in a perfect universe, there's somebody whose job it is to make sure communication issues like this don't happen. But Wizards fired that person. So we have product. We have people with the product. We have people who have been told they can review the product and show pictures of the product and stuff like that online. No different than anybody else reviewing anything. We have people who pick up the product at Gen Con and maybe thought they could, maybe had the documentation that said they could. We're not sure. Maybe Wizards just said, oh yeah, you can. Anyways, shortly thereafter, some of these videos went up. Individuals like Josephine, I'm pretty sure I'm saying that wrong, received copyright marks from YouTube itself. Do not show this. You're violating Wizards of the Coast copyright. Now imagine the confusion of these people when, one, hey, Wizards, you said we could do this. I've got the document right here. And two, the level of editing moderation made no sense. It wasn't a universal ban. It was a pick and choose ban. Some people had the document, the product, the videos taken down, just gone. YouTube removed them for violating the copyright. Other people had the redacted warning. Other people had to go back in and make the stuff that they saw fuzzy. This went on for about a day or two. Some people being told you can't show our stuff at all. Some people told you can show our stuff, but you have to blur it out. Some people being told, oh, you're fine. You can show whatever you want as long as you put the little warning on it looking at you. So this went on for like 2 days, and everybody in the interweb was like, ah! And I was like, in a perfect world, there would be somebody whose job it would be to make sure this didn't happen. I don't know, somebody in charge of communicating between the various people involved. Oh, there was, but you fired them. And then 2 days later, Wizards said, oh, wait, problem, communication error. No, it's okay. You can show our product. Now, this was all based on Wizards' concern that somehow, if Bob Worldbuilder showed every page of the 2024 Player's Handbook, somebody with an unbelievably powerful computer could go in, take pictures of each page, edit them so they're actually readable, and then print them out to make their own copy of the Player's Handbook. Now you would think, but you can just do that with the SRD. But the SRD has been delayed. The SRD should be out already because the product's out and you're letting people write stuff for it. But no, we delayed the SRD till after the Monster Manual comes out next year because we violated our own NDA and we violated our own street date. So we have to change things because we're dumb. So now it appears that people can make the reviews, can put the product up. And again, sidebar, let me just say, if you have the wherewithal to go frame by frame through a video somebody else made to scan each individual page of the Player's Handbook, assuming that there's somebody out there who actually showed you each individual page of the 2024 Player's Handbook, scan those, run them through the editing program to make them legible, and then print it out. If you got that time, you got the effort, you've got the money, you've got the computer programs, you've got the wherewithal to do that, you should be allowed to do that. Because the amount of time and energy you put in doing that, you could have just bought the thing for $60 and skipped this whole weirdness. But if you went through all that, then God love you. You should be able to. Also, you should probably be offered a job at Wizards because, they need somebody who can do what you just did. But I don't know anybody who's capable of doing that, but that was their concern. But that's okay because 2 days later, that went away. Situation normal. We made a mistake. You can do stuff with our product. Except, while we thought that's what the story ended, almost every day since, there's been at least one video continuing to address the censorship issue. So either people are still being censored by Wizards and haven't gone through the wherewithal that Josephine and the others did to get the censorship removed, or two, these people are not aware that the censorship was removed and need to double check their facts because as far as we know, the censorship dings were removed, Or 3, they know full well it was removed. They're just trying to make, you angry at Wizards again. Hey, I know this happened a week ago, but Wizards hasn't done anything dumb this week. So let's talk about this that happened a month ago, a year ago. Guys, I assure you, Wizards is fully capable of doing at least one stupid thing a week. There's absolutely no reason to talk about things that happened a week ago, a month ago, or a year ago, because they're going to do something new, which 9 out of 10 times is going to make you go, what? Because if anybody else, let's say, did what Wizards were doing, they'd be doing it a way that logically makes sense. And every step towards the eventual goal would make sense. Oh, I see what you're doing there. I don't appreciate it, but it makes sense. Oh, I see why you did that. I don't like it, but it makes sense from a business point of view. Every other company in the world follows that very simple premise. Our job is to make money. Our job is to make money for our shareholders. Our job is to make our product approachable so people choose to buy our product over any of the other products that do the exact same thing that our product does. We have to present them the most appealing MacGuffin so they are more likely to purchase it. And there's a lot of tricks we can pull to make people interested in our MacGuffin. There's a tried and true handbook, which is constantly be updating because the world is changing, but still there's just think logical choices that make sense to make a business profitable and to make people choose your MacGuffin over everybody else's MacGuffin. Is McDonald's the best hamburger in the world? Nope. Is it the most popular? Yes. Why? Because McDonald's understands the algorithm and they understands how to make their product the most appealing of all the products out there that do the exact same thing. Wizards knows this. It's business 101, but for reasons that still boggle our minds, they choose to ignore it and do the exact opposite. What is the stupidest thing we can do to move our product forward? I don't know. Why don't we tell people that they can pre-order the new Player's Handbook for $160, offer them a ton of digital product that they can't use, and then ship it to them when it becomes available in September? Okay. That sounds like something logical. Yeah, that's a good way. We could do that. But what we should also do is we should print out 3,000 copies of the same Player's Handbook and make them available at Gen Con to anybody who walks through the door. Yeah, it's a totally good idea. Well, what about the people who spent $160 to pre-order it so they would get it first in September? Well, who? They won't mind. Hey, person out there who spent all the money for the digital product that you can't use yet, and you just found out that the game you're still waiting for, somebody else picked it up 2 weeks before you did, even though Wizards of the Coast told you that you were going to get it first. Are you upset? Are you like, I'm still going to get it? I can still use my digital dragon eventually. Maybe. If I choose to actually pay to play Sigil. So there you go. Let's wrap things up. Bring this episode of That's So Wizards to a close. That's So Wizards filmed in front of a live studio audience consisting entirely of Steve the Cat. Story number 1. Wizards of the Coast wants you to know that they do not believe you're giving them enough money. D&D is not profitable. This might have something to do with the $1 billion they lost at the beginning of the year. I don't know, but D&D is not profitable unless we take it digital and make everything pay to play. DLC. Story number 2. Hey, we give you permission to show our stuff online, except, of course, we then go after you for violating our copyright because we think you can do something that sounds to me like it's pretty difficult to do, but okay. But then we're going to give some people permission to continue to go back and show their stuff online. But then other people, I don't know. I don't know either. It's not like where there's somebody here whose job it is to tell us whether we should do this or not. We're just a bunch of fish in a bowl, guys. I don't know what to tell you, honey. That's so wizard.
We're laughing aloud now, magic in the air. Wands roll around us, cast away our care. Friends in the hallways, adventures we find. Spells and enchantments, trouble on our mind. That's so wizard, oh, 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 oh. Life is a spell we know. We're casting joy and glow, oh, oh. That's a wizard show. Mischief in the class.